Yeah, is that okay? Okay. We'll go ahead
Thank
and
you.
call to order the Tuesday, March 24th, 2026 policy work session. And we will begin by looking at policy 3231. And this policy was at our last policy meeting, went to the business meeting, now it's back to policy meeting.
Yep.
Right, because we had discussed some questions about tutors.
Yeah.
And this policy just clarifies that staff members can't tutor students outside of school, but actually gives them more leeway than what was in the policy before. So they can tutor them as long as the student is not enrolled in their class or they're tutoring them in the same subject that's being taught in the class that the teacher teaches.
Yeah.
So my notes on this were, and something I remember we discussed was like, what about tutors hired by Every Child Can Read or the Boys and Girls Club?
Yep.
And so I feel like maybe I'm out of line here, but maybe we need some language in it that specifies unless tutoring services are provided by a nonprofit organization, the staff members paid by that nonprofit or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, anyone teaching tutoring by a nonprofit would not be meeting this policy.
Yeah. What happened was because we have teachers who are currently in the classroom.
Right.
Some of their kids go to club or Every Child Can Read just naturally. And the policy as it's written, the policy as it's written would not allow a teacher to provide tutoring services through Every Child Can Read or Boys and Girls Club because if they're in their class, policy says you can't do that. So my recommendation, because I had a few teachers reach out to me with concerns about this one.
Yes.
The association reached out to me also, and a simple solution could be just to strike D entirely.
Oh.
You could, if you leave D, that means the teacher can't offer tutoring services that are remedial during the school day. And you could strike E entirely if you would like.
So if we did that though, that really it still remains that conflict of interest for me. So that means that I still could have a student in my class and then charge them for after my school hours.
Why not build in a waiver provision that allows the teacher to get the consent of the building principal and document in the teacher's file? And with the consent of the parent, I think that would
some sort of way.
Or if the child's 18.
If we build in a waiver, that has to go to the agency provide tutoring, and then it's on them to disseminate the waiver.
No, I would assume that we're talking about primary concern I see is a teacher who has a child in that teacher's class, and we pretty well eliminated that possibility for most situations. I can see a teacher teaching a item in class, a physics class, advanced math. And if my kid needs a little help, I'd like to, and that teacher's able and willing to do it, I might want that teacher to be the one that does it. I just think thou shalt not is always tough when we put it into policy because we can't begin to predict the nuances and the factual situations that might arise.
If you don't mind, just from a clarity standpoint, just providing, because I know we had the conversation during one of the last business meetings, and I know that some conversations have been had since as far as how we could best approach this particular policy. But Ms. Insel, if you could just give an example of what this policy safeguards and maybe some of the misinterpretation or misperception around the policy that will prevent teachers from working.
Yeah, it's great because right now the policy states verbatim staff members may not accept fees for remedial tutoring of students currently enrolled in one or more of their classes. That's what it says currently.
And the term remedial is the key.
Yep, and it's remedial. So now what the policy says, it keeps that language and says, in one or more of their classes in the same subject, they're teaching the student while the student's enrolled in that class. So the problem arises when a kid naturally comes to a club or a different agency where tutoring services are provided. And so if a student is taking an English class with a teacher who's an English teacher, and they come to club or for YMCA or wherever they're going, and they need tutoring in English, the policy would prevent that because they're enrolled in that class in that subject at the time of the tutoring. So a lot of the concern of this policy is we're safeguarding students because we want to make sure that we are educating during the day and we're providing services during the day and not billing or creating a financial stake in there after hours. And I think that's the concern, of making sure we protect students and families so we're not charging them for services or tutoring that could have been done in the day potentially.
Through differentiation
Yep.
and tiered level support.
Could we take E, keep E in and keep it as presented, but then put after it, exception, tutoring services provided by a nonprofit organization or tutoring services provided by a teacher through nonprofit organization is the exception, or somehow say that.
We can add an exception in there.
Would that cover anyone teaching through Every Child Can Read tutoring or Boys and Girls Club, but then still protects that time that we want to keep that space clear between a student in a classroom and the teacher charging a parent or a student for extra tutoring, like you mentioned?
I think so.
I don't know. That way we allow tutoring, like you can, I can tutor a student who's in my classroom if I'm working for Every Child Can Read or if I'm working for the Boys and Girls Club and I'm receiving money through those organizations.
I think that would be a way to do it, is add an exception line in there. And I'm sure there are going to be some very unique cases because we're saying nonprofit. What if it's a third party agency? It's a for-profit.
Right.
We could just say.
Do we have any of those?
Not to my knowledge.
My only concern with that would be like, what if I started my own tutoring company?
Yep.
And then I'm tutoring,
Right.
and then I would meet that criteria. So I kind of like the nonprofit because I feel like that's who we partner with.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know what
I agree.
RA's concerns were, but if I were looking at this, regardless of how we kind of temper it down, because you say it's better than what we had before, or more liberal. I think the primary police person of this would be the teacher themselves. I mean, I would not want to put myself in that position. That's not the way it works in the real world.
I know that I'd be remiss if I didn't reference that in other conversations that have been had. One of the questions that came up is it truly necessary to even have the policy? Now, of course, we know that the safeguard is on the side of the parent, guardian, and student. But one of the $1 million questions came up is it causing more complexities than what the policy is truly
Is
designed?
it creating a solution in search of a problem?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the old adage, bad facts make for bad law. Well, I mean, if we're assuming a bad set of facts is developing the policy, then I think that could temper the policy.
And so with that, if the board had an appetite, unanimous appetite or majority appetite to do away with the policy, is that something that Attorney Walsh, you would be comfortable with us exploring, or?
Well, I mean, you probably won't invite me back after some of my comments. I try to religiously.
It's not just to every English. It also applies to music lessons.
Yeah.
Or they're giving private violin lessons.
I know I had trumpet lessons from Ralph Burkhart, and he was the head of our band at Dennis. He was kind enough to suggest that if I was torn between basketball and trumpet, I probably ought to do basketball.
Well, this policy also talks about not just tutoring, but staff members campaigning, school hours for political issues.
Yeah.
And so forgive me, I
Mentioned
apologize.
several portions. Okay.
If we were to amend just the aspect that speaks directly to tutoring,
Okay. So what?
keep the other, but maybe amend it or remove it, would it
Remove
prevent
E. So
such
we're
a-
going back to removing E.
If we removed E, or we could add the exceptions clause.
Mhm.
Either one, I think.
exceptions as far as waivers
Yeah.
and exceptions?
Exception. It was language. It'd be. You could leave E verbatim, and then add another sentence with some effect of tutoring services provided by a teacher through a nonprofit, or this is not applicable to them. Something like that. That way, our teachers who do work a second job or a third job aren't concerned about a conflict of interest or they're violating policy
Right.
when the intention is not there. Right? They're working their job
could we potentially, Mr. Hensley and I work with Attorney Cross, wordsmith and legalese the language and maybe bring it back for discussion during the next business meeting and then find out where the board sits with either including such verbiage or excluding the entire notion. I think that may be
Yeah, because right now the current policy is even tighter than the recommended change. Like,
Right.
the current policy is super strict, so this is at least a loose.
So yeah, it seems like, in my opinion, we don't want to go from really strict to removing it completely.
Yes.
To me, it's like the middle ground is what this does, which is adds this with the exception. But that I'm just one of many. But
That's great.
but to me, it's not jumping the opposite way. It's finding the middle ground that gives more leeway. But I don't know.
Yeah.
So you three will look at the language and then we can, as a board, discuss this, whether we want to add that exception or whether we want to remove E or not.
Okay, so we'll just bring it to the next business meeting.
I think so. So you'll work on the language.
However, at the same time, I'm curious to know, could we provide the board with an opportunity just to provide their feedback and insight between now and April's meeting?
I can email it to the board so you guys have it ahead of time.
Yeah, and then by the time we the meeting, maximize the moment and of that time to either approve for final reading or move on to a fourth reading. Because I think this is exactly that, right?
This would be a second reading, but we could, if you want to take it back to first reading, I guess you could. Is that a change? I'm
No,
Attorney Cross.
I think it's come before twice. Like April would be the third.
Third.
And so if we could work together to revise the verbiage, then get it out to the board, and so review, provide some feedback and insight, maybe have at the April meeting, third reading for approval would be the goal. But if not, as Attorney Cross has educated us before, they can move to a fourth reading. I'm sorry, fourth reading.
Policy for the board says.
That's right.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions or comments on policy 3231? Okay, if not, we'll move on to policy 4162. It looks like it clarifies the definitions, which is really nice.
It does.
I really like the part where staff members who voluntarily disclose that they have an addiction can participate in some different EAP program that we have and other things. And this, Neola has, this is a long policy.
It is
So,
a very long policy.
I see your notes, Stephen. I think they're your notes that this allows us to comply with changes to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration Substance Abuse Policy.
Yep.
And this has to do with our bus drivers. Is that correct?
Yeah. Anyone who's CDL.
Okay.
Our repairmen and mechanics of our drivers have CDLs. Do our mechanics that work on our buses have CDLs?
Mechanics who work on our buses.
Yeah, suggested they should.
I think it's suggested they do. I'd have to get with Sodril as to how they maintain the buses.
Most often,
They usually do.
Yeah, it's commonplace that they do. We can find out for sure how many actually do carry them.
Yeah.
At any time, they may be called upon to jump on the bus.
Another question I received from our operations team and from Sodril was on page 2. Was under letter H. It talks about the term CDL license holder or what that means, and who it applies to. In the last last sentence is, and staff members who drive vehicles designed to transport 16 or more people, including the driver, who are required to hold a CDL. So, they're in this policy. If you are transporting 16 or more people, including yourself, that would be something you need a CDL for.
Oh.
Right, because that was the definition. They're like, all right, okay, just make sure we understand what that is. I think that's currently correct and how everything makes sense under the law. I'm not an attorney, but my understanding of who's required to have a CDL is if it's 16 or more people, you have to have a CDL.
Checking if it's a question. It seems to me.
I know in past practice, as an athletics coach, I would be permitted to drive one of the short, one of the mini buses.
Yep.
To to transport my athletic ball teams, in particular summer tourneys and those type of things. And as long as we stayed, there could only be 13. That's what we understood there. 12 athletes plus the driver.
Yeah.
Or 13 in total.
So then you didn't have to have your CDA.
You did not.
Okay.
It's like a multi-passenger van.
Okay, understand.
So I've driven many a minibus in my experience.
Yep.
So does that mean if I drive the minibus and I have 15 people or 14, 15 with me, that I don't have to comply with this policy?
Right. If you are driving 14 people plus yourself as the driver, that's 15 total in the van. You do not have to have CDL.
But then I don't have to follow the drug and alcohol testing. I guess I don't have to be tested. What does that mean? What is this?
The drug.
If you're an employee, no matter whether you have a CDL, we have
Yeah.
a policy that says with reasonable suspicion or
Yeah.
post-accident, we can require testing.
If you're like visibly impaired, the policy says we can have you drug tested, and so we would get that done after an accident almost immediately if we suspect impairment. Or in general, I would say if there's an accident, I would recommend that anyway,
Yeah.
just the safety precaution.
I think it's a good liability protection.
Yeah.
Or,
Then I guess I'm wondering, why do we have a specific one if we already have a policy, obviously, that says, I'm just questioning why we hone in on CDL when really our policy already says you can't be an employee of us and have any drugs or alcohol or anything in your system.
Well, if you have drugs and alcohol in your system and you are not visibly impaired, we may not have reasonable suspicion to have you drug tested, or we may not know. But
or
if
you may be under a presumption. There may be a legal presumption that you're not under the influence if it's under.
Yep. So this is what this policy clarifies. It says if you are a bus driver or a CDL holder and you are in an accident, even if you aren't a CDL holder, if you are in an accident driving one of our vehicles, transporting our students, we have the right to have, or the policy to have you drug tested.
Okay.
Which I think,
Added protection.
yep, it's just an added level of liability protection.
I'm going to use around 5. So, out of tribute to Charlie Matthews, and you guys don't know who he was, but I will get him. I just go mad when I see dangling adverbs. So I will clean that up.
Dangling adverbs.
Off the record, but the word immediately at the end, I think, was meant to modify the verb that appears way back.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments about this policy? Okay, it looks like this one could go to the next board meeting for first reading. April 14th.
I feel so far away, but I know it's not.
Yes. Next, we will look at policy 5350, student suicide awareness and prevention.
I can speak to this one.
Thank you.
I did have our school counselors look up this policy. It does change some of the language, actually quite a bit. It's much of a rewrite to comply with Indiana code, which is listed on the very last line, and the references, I believe, are at the very end. I had our school counselors. I had them all in a room, and I was like, "Okay, I'll ask about it now." And I gave them all a policy, and they had about 10 minutes to review it there, and then they had 4 more days to give me feedback. This was prior to the old policy meeting. No one gave me any negative feedback. There was no tweaks required of them, no concerns shared by our counselors. So this policy for me is good to go, based on the revisions and the edits we've selected here.
I have a question about, I'm looking online, so I don't know. It's part of the big green section.
Yep.
It says the corporation provides school counseling services to students and families related to suicide prevention. Like, what does that mean exactly?
Okay.
Is that if the student who has, I don't know.
So as part of like general education, you especially, and I can speak because as a principal, I live this, especially in our K-8 world. Our school counselors are in 5-8. They don't have them at K-4. In 5-8, the school counselors would go to classes routinely to talk about anti-bullying campaigns, suicide prevention. They use different language to be not as like assertive, but there was language about mental health awareness, and those were provided to students. And then a message would go out to my families about, hey, this happened today. It's kind of applicable to like the human sexuality, legislatively determined education. that we would send out message to our parents, let them know this happened. We were doing that. But this would be a little bit more of a direct responsibility of our school counselors. That's why I gave it in the policy. Was not only do we have to have we have to have an agreement with the health provider, we have to have a plan posted to our website. Those are things that would be required. We currently do all of these things. I don't believe it's posted to our website, but I know we have a partnership with a mental health provider. So there's be some, I guess, documenting on the back end on our website, so parents and families would have access to the resources, so they know where to go. And we currently have a lot of that done. For example, on our boards, and you walk in the building, there's a giant red sign with all the resources on it.
Yes.
We currently Firefly. All administrators have a Firefly QR code, like I have one here.
Yep.
And parents can access any resource within our county. So we do make sure we have those. They're posted in newsletters and that kind of thing. Like those things exist. We just have to be a little more intentional about making sure we talk about mental health or suicide awareness and prevention.
Thank you for that explanation. So then I have a question. The corporation provides school counseling services for students and families, but we don't have counselors so we don't really do that for students and families, or only we do it for students and families 5 through 12 is what I'm hearing. Is that right? I just want to make sure that
Are you reading that to say we provide direct services for counseling for students and families? I am reading that in the way that says we would recommend resources. We could connect you to resources like Meridian or Community Mental Health, Reed Hospital. Like, I'm not reading that to say that our
That we
counselors
do
are
it
directly
directly.
providing support.
Okay.
That is, we are a conduit to resources and connections in our community.
We provide school
Yep.
counseling services. Okay.
Within the building, we
Yes.
respond to crisis, we talk with children and kids, and we level them up. But when it comes to professional services, we are going to connect them with outside resources.
Centerstone.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Centerstone,
Yeah, that
Meridian,
makes sense to me.
just partnerships. That way,
Mhm.
we are not providing. We could never. There's like 4,200 students who go here.
Yeah.
We could never provide direct services for every kid in Richmond schools.
Other questions, comments about 5350?
I want to make sure under paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, information regarding suicide prevention services in the community can be found by contacting the school council in our corporation. So we'll make our school counselors are aware of this, that if a parent or family or a student is struggling with suicide or thoughts of ideation, they can reach out and our school counselors can direct them to the supports. And that's kind of further why when it says we provide counseling services, we connect them to outside agencies. Or
Yes, but then, so if I am a parent at Westview and my student's struggling, this tells me to contact the school counselor.
they could contact any
Yeah,
school counselor.
School counselor.
Yep, and we would direct them all the same way.
But, okay, so that would be tricky for me. And
Yep.
I'm a Westview parent and I'm like, well, I don't know if I call my school.
Yep.
Okay.
And that responsibility would typically fall to the building level
You
administrator.
would then contact another
Yep.
counselor. Okay.
And we
And interesting enough,
Well, I guess then I'm getting really picky, but this says
Yeah.
by contacting any school. By contacting a school counselor in any school. But I can't do that in some schools. In 6 schools, I cannot contact
they could. It would
the
just be like
counselor.
it says by contacting the school counselor in any school. So it doesn't matter what counselor you call. If you're a parent in crisis and you call one of our schools, our counselors will all advise you the same way. They'll provide a resource. It doesn't matter where your student goes. Now I understand the logistical
It's
hurdle.
telling me to contact the school counselor.
Right.
But
But
there are
these,
6 schools that don't have school counselors. That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
And I know that counselor is just a conduit to
Yep.
connect
Or you could
me
say
up.
any of the assigned school counselors.
Mhm.
Do you want to change that to say by contacting?
Well, could we put by contacting the school counselor or principal?
Yeah.
In any school?
Yeah.
Because we know we have
We know we have
principals in every school.
Yep.
Or maybe we could just say, yeah, I'd say or.
Yep, we can do that. Because I understand the hurdle at
Yeah.
elementaries
Mhm.
and CYS Baxter.
so that it's been updated, but that
Mm.
is a example of some of the protocols we utilize
Yeah.
in all of our schools.
So we have a mental health flow chart that in the event there is a crisis, there's a response protocol for every building level principal and counselor to know. So we can simply say school counselor or building level administrator in any school
Yes,
incorporation.
I like that.
Yep.
Yes.
All the
Thank you.
principals and all of our
And
counselors.
that matches with what this says
Yep.
too. It says a counselor or identified RCS admin.
We can do
Okay.
that.
I think that would be good.
Okay.
And we've had those protocols in place now for almost 2 years.
Okay. That was paragraph 4.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so that addition, and then we will move this on to the first reading in April. Next is policy 6320 purchasing.
This is a really interesting policy.
It's long.
It is.
So I tried to cross-check this
Mhm.
with our previous, and the dollar amounts look like we were keeping the same with those limitations I've
Yeah.
noticed. The difference was, I think, that first paragraph, that purchase or lease materials or performance.
375.
I'm sorry.
Are you talking about the 375 amount?
Yes, that whole new paragraph, that sounded like if our own workers are completing work, is that, what does this mean? Now I've read it 3 times and I'm not sure I still understand the purchase or lease of materials and performance of public works.
What means we don't have to bid it.
Yeah.
If we,
It's our
but,
own people.
but there are some
So
checks and balances. We have to make a find. The board should make a finding that we have the ability to perform the public work.
So if,
Sometimes
for example, RCS does the work and we don't RFP or we don't contract it out, we do it in house
Mhm.
up to $375,000 considered public works. We don't have to do a bidding process. We are the ones doing it. But I
That's
think
the
Ron,
threshold for
Yeah.
that 75,000.
I
Would
think-
this be like the work being done at the softball field? Okay. That's what it
Doesn't
made me
mean
think.
doesn't mean we can't still do it.
right?
Right.
I mean, we have issues with public works ourselves.
And then, but this wasn't in our previous policy, is
It's
that
not.
correct? Okay.
No,
Well,
this
it's-
is Indiana Code 5-22 for that
Yes.
one.
Yeah, they've been increasing. Indiana code what?
5-22.
That's purchasing. Yeah.
So
Public
Neola
Works is
added this
26.14.
section.
Pardon?
Neola added this section.
They did.
Okay.
In addition to that, I would say there's one question while Ron's here I haven't.
Mhm.
On page 5, there is under section A towards the bottom, it's an RFP talking about any for the purchase of services anticipated to exceed $25,000 in a single year. I think it requests an RFP. Or the $25,000 from what operations said that might, or the even finance said that might be a little low.
Yeah.
Anything that is going to cost you $25,000, you have to do an RFP.
You don't have to.
Right, just because in the policies we have to.
Well, I know, but the law doesn't require.
Okay.
Is Neola suggesting is that the
Neola suggested.
25 grand?
What did we have previously?
I don't think we did.
I don't think there's been. You
Well,
can generally procure services by any method that the board finds acceptable.
Okay.
Doesn't.
Yeah, that number was not in our previous policy.
Mhm.
Actually, really great that you're here because I was really curious about that one.
So what did our operations suggest, or did they suggest?
They did not give me a dollar amount. I think on purpose.
Okay.
We don't. I don't think we have to list one. If Attorney Cross is saying that if the board finds the procurement method acceptable, it's acceptable.
Basically, I can't speak for the board.
Yeah.
I think I would characterize the board's practice in the past has been, when it comes to services, they let the administration vet the service providers and bring a recommendation. And that's typically the way it works. And then any contract or claim that has for payment of services obviously is approved by the board.
If you would like, I could just strike the first paragraph. But it's not in the current policy.
When you say the first, is that
Right.
section A?
Yeah.
That whole A and
We're
1
on
and 2?
page 5. Is it your reference on page 5? Bob?
I was on page 1. The first,
See, I don't see page number down.
at the very beginning, it's the section A with was the purchase or lease of materials and performance of public works.
Oh, this paragraph here?
Hmm.
Is suggested.
Yeah, or I could always do a little more research and bring it back to another policy meeting.
You know what?
Which one are we on?
Right here.
Oh, well, okay. I thought you were talking about a different one.
Oh, yeah. There's
Okay.
You come through.
So you're saying Neola is suggesting we add that in,
Yep.
and then we don't have it right now.
Right.
Okay. And now we're suggesting removing it. Because now there are no limitations on the amount that our workers can do. Is that correct?
Well, no, that's not right.
Okay.
Because Neola's mixing and matching. Yeah, it's not a very well drafted policy.
Okay.
It's conflating public purchases with public works. Public works are defined as improvements to a public structure or building having an estimated cost of, and then you have various striations of procedures that are implicated. Smaller ones can be quoted, but can be and then you get to the next level, you have to have 3 solicit bids or solicit quotes, and then it's really difficult. And we just redid ours at the county, and it was a lengthy process.
Would you like? Well, I can bring it back to the next policy meeting to the board, and if you guys would like, I can have Attorney Cross read over with a more fine-tooth comb, and we can, if there's a conflation of public works and public leasing, and we could definitely address that through a little more legal research, because I would bring him to do that. Is
Okay.
that okay?
That sounds good to me.
And again,
Yeah.
the board understands, more importantly, or as important, I should say, the administration understands how the public works statutes work. Then I've never felt a compulsion to have to reiterate every statute into board policy. I think that's a waste of effort, resources, and really doesn't advance any interest.
We'll bring this one back.
Yeah.
Here.
And all the other changes were good. I know there's a lot of selections made.
And we're on lost selections.
There are a lot of options and selections.
What I'll do is I'll ask Attorney Cross to go through and
Okay.
check all the selections
Okay.
and make sure that this policy is appropriate and doesn't add additional work or layers that aren't necessary.
Okay.
I think that's the concern is
Yeah.
because
Too much.
just because it's Indiana statute or code doesn't mean there's a policy about it.
And Neola's assumptions don't always apply, because like I say, one size doesn't fit all. It says the purchasing agent shall open bid publicly. Well, one of the first things you do in your organizational meeting in January is you appoint a committee to
Yeah.
open bids for public works
Right.
and public purchases. So so
Okay.
they don't see that out.
Okay.
That sounds like a good plan. So this will come back to policy eventually, policy.
Yep.
Great. Next is policy 7540.02, digital content and accessibility.
So this policy, I got feedback from our technology department, as a lot of it is about accessing our digital resources and primarily our website. That's a big one. And so I had to go through and make the selections, and so that's the feedback you're seeing is everything in green was selected, or everything in green was a rewrite from Neola. If you see an X or a check, that's what a selection that was from our director of technology and his team.
I tried to read through this thinking about like a teacher who has a Facebook page for their classroom, and I was unclear whether that would be right. Some of the wording, because it said a personal Facebook page, but really when I had one for my classroom, it was my personal one. I had just named it my classroom.
Okay.
But it wasn't my, it was one that I created. So I didn't know that, and I guess if technologies looked at that, because I know several teachers have private
Yeah.
accounts.
I would generally say this to anybody who would hear it. I don't think it is best practice for an educator who is working for RCS to have a private or public account as them representing themselves as a teacher. I think the platform I would recommend would be Parent Square. We pay for that. That's our communication center. I understand some logistical hurdles there with our families potentially if they don't. I think there's a couple there, and I will acknowledge that. I don't think it's best practice for a personal, like a private Facebook group or otherwise, to use a social media account to serve as communication system for families and parents. I think that is really tricky for me.
Well, and that's something that over the past few years we've more than strongly encouraged family staff to.
I think there was lots of concerns with photos being released. If you have a no photo list, how you're representing yourself, the language used. I think there's a lot of concerns I would have about it.
So does this mean that teachers can't? Because I think that some do. I know some do.
I know some do.
Many do. So does
Can't.
this mean they can't, or I don't know?
This doesn't say they can't,
Okay.
but I would strongly advise and encourage
Okay.
teachers in the corporation, who I will love dearly, and tell the truth that I think that is not. I think that's a not illegal, but definitely higher liability. Right? Would that be a way to say that? And it's risky.
just fraught with challenges.
Yeah.
And those things, I mean, the biggest one, frankly, is content-based exclusion.
Yep.
I mean, I'm in a federal district court suit right now in the county because somebody didn't like the fact that they were taken down off a Facebook page and blocked. And truth of the matter is, the page was never intended to be interactive. Now, I'm not techie at all in this stuff, so I don't want to speak with any authority. But to the extent it was interactive, whether it was intended or not, then they can't administer it in such a manner as to be viewpoint discriminatory.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, a good example was 21 or 22 when we height of the pandemic, and I represent the health department, and we had a Facebook page up that was intended to be PSA type stuff only, public service announcements. Well, immediately we get people that, hey, I don't believe in masking. I'm not going to have my kid vaccinated. All the.
We heard that during the same.
Well,
time.
we always heard it here. Yeah. So I don't want to purchase their positions. Their positions were sincere and well taken, but we couldn't. And so I get a call from Gavin Rose at the ACLU.
Yep.
And he's got a couple of people that didn't like it. So I said, here's what we're going to do. It's not intended to be interactive, but according to Facebook, we couldn't keep it from being so. And I don't know if you can do that now, if you can or not. We put a filter on it that basically filtered any word that would come in that contained these words. And filters are typical, but they're usually laced with profanity, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We had words like is, and, the. There's no way in the world anybody was going to get a comment past that filter. And I told him, I said, yeah, it's intended to keep every comment out, but that's not content based. That's why that's content neutral, which is the law allows. And we got. I never heard back from Gavin other than say, well, it's one way to skin the cat, and he kind of begrudgingly acknowledged it.
So I hear the concern of we currently understand that there are maybe some educators who are using Facebook pages or groups, and that'll be something that I would address one-on-one with folks like, hey, I understand you need to wrap this up and transition to the Parent Square platform, which is what we already paid for. It's a single, it's how we do all communication in the district. The district does have a Facebook page, and I believe there's a filter on it. There's no engagement. It's really a communication system. We're disseminating information. It's not meant to be interactive.
That's exactly.
Yep. And so if educators are doing that, I don't say it this way. If you're aware of it, let me know. I don't want to create like a policing system. If you are aware of it, you can let me know, and I will talk with those educators about and honestly tell them why it's a tough idea. It's a bad idea, I think.
And principals will review, especially during their faculty meetings and others. Just
Start a school. That's a good topic to understand, because I mean, the teacher just wants to have communication.
Yeah, although well intentioned.
Exactly.
Great intentions. I don't think a teacher's doing it for a bad reason at all. I think it's really great intentions and noble intentions. I think the outcome is such that if you do have not just content exclusion, but if you're excluding people from the group, Like, I think you have a real concern there.
And that was the intent and the rationale with regard to commitment to Parent Square was to create a one-stop shop for our entire community to be well informed and up to speed with all things.
Yeah. It is.
It
Definitely.
mentions we have an AG defining roles and standards for staff and students who publish digital content. I'm assuming that's done.
This would have to come. I need the policy to go to board and get approved.
And then
Yep, Neola has drafted one,
got it.
but I can't. Policy comes first, AG comes after.
Okay.
So I didn't get the cart before the horse and draft an AG.
Yeah, that's good.
Just until it's done, right?
Smart. I did like that the tech director oversees a once-a-year audit to ensure the digital accessibility. That was really good.
Absolutely. And so our tech team would be responsible, or our director of technology would have an additional piece of work to do, which they really already do. It would just be formalizing a little bit with more of an audit of the digital platforms.
After that section on audits, and then right after audits comes D and then E, annual training.
Yep.
So the annual's marked out. That first line, the corporation will provide annual, and then I don't think training for its employees should be marked out there, correct? Because then that sentence doesn't make sense if that's marked
Yeah.
out.
I agree with
What
you.
about from that?
It's in green, so I
It's
think what they meant to. I think
okay.
it was originally crossed out, and they put it in green to add it back.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
I don't. They just traded the word annual at the in the
Yes.
top.
It's on page 3
Right.
under
Or on page 4, towards the top under annual training. The annual training.
So training for its employees who should not have allowed to do it.
Yes.
It should be included. Okay, that would make sense.
Yeah.
And that annual training comes through PDs, I'm assuming, on Tuesdays, or what is that training?
Annual training. We usually use a platform called Vector Solutions.
Okay.
So there's Safe Schools videos that go out, and that usually houses videos like suicide awareness and prevention, human trafficking, test security. And so we would load it in there to make sure this is also included.
Bloodborne Path.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
more
So
pathogens.
this will be another one. Teachers get to watch about technology, creating contents and okay. They're gonna love that.
I think that's probably the simplest way to do it.
Yes.
There's not a specified mechanism how
Yes.
to provide training. I think the simplest option is to do it that way.
Yeah.
But that is just my opinion. That's not the will of the board. If you guys would have done differently, we can talk about it.
But we haven't previously done any training like this. This is because this hasn't been part of our policy.
Well, we do training with cybersecurity right now.
Mhm.
It's called Know Before. So right now there's like a monthly, quarterly trainings that go out about cybersecurity, and it really addresses phishing, scamming, when to click links, when not to click links. It does take a little time. I mean, I do them, but it does take a little time to make sure you are aware of like fraudulent activity or scam activity, how to mark things as spam, when to forward things, when to not forward things, what to look for. So we do offer it in that capacity.
Do they just come as an email, or
Yeah.
Okay, so some people may just delete and not complete
It-
the training,
well,
or
it-
did they have to?
they have to do
click?
it.
Okay.
It keeps
Yeah.
coming. It comes through email. There's a list maintained by technology about who has it. One of the big steps we took as a district was two-factor authentication. That was a really big step for us to require every educator has to have two-factor. So that is another layer of protection for us to make sure we are not subjecting ourselves to liability via scammers, phishers, whatever, whoever really. That was a really big step because I think it was a great direction.
Do you ever do any testing of your of the?
I will
Subject
say,
fee.
I think they do because I did have one that came back to me like this was a test for phishing, and I there was one I clicked on. I don't know. It looked totally normal to me, and I'm a digital native, and I still was like, oh my gosh, I did not pass the test.
Well, we
Think someone's enough to write.
Oh,
we can we regularly do that.
Oh, the fish attempt.
Did they get you?
Yes.
I have not been hacked.
I was not.
And I'm one that interesting enough and the tech team they chuckle when I bring them if it looks fishy in any sort of fashion. I take it straight to them and they're appreciative of it. I know that when I made the decision to approval of the two-step authentication a few
Right.
years back. That was not a
Not
popular decision,
Not popular.
but it definitely is. It was one of those things that allowed us to not be as affected a few years back during the cyber security attack. But yes, they attempted to try and get me, but we were too smart.
They hit it. Mine was it came as an email from it was an email from internally, and a purchase order was attached to it, and it was a fake purchase order.
Oh.
And I opened the purchase order and it said this was a test. I was like, oh my gosh! When I went back to the email to look, it said K-12, it said KI2.
Yeah.
So it was
There
was great.
were clues, but you really had to be careful.
Yep, I had to really be looking, and I wasn't. So
Which is very proactive and very positive that our tech team.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at Stacy back there.
Yeah, they absolutely such too.
Well, we started this morning
Sending
with
them out right
emails
now.
and slides saying that our firm,
Yeah, no more tests back there.
$1,400 in plane tickets
Oh,
charged at 2:30 this morning.
oh,
So if one of our closest friends was flying from Houston to Miami, I'm sure
ouch.
we got hacked
Oh.
this morning on our credit card.
And as we know, such activity is just continuing to trickle upward and definitely keeping folks on their toes. And we also have our technology team and
They're fabulous.
the outfit that we utilize does a tremendous job of educating. There's so much education and training that goes into being able to spot. But as I've said time and again, there are professional folks that wake up every day, just as we do, to come in and serve nobly. They're waking up every day to do just the opposite. And some of them are very professional in their craft.
Okay, many other questions or comments about this policy? We'll move on to policy 7440.01, which is electronic monitoring and recording.
This policy speaks about the district's capacity to post cameras in places to avoid things like vandalism or destruction of property, theft, that kind of thing.
One of the things in the policy says that we have visible signs at main entrances of buildings in which we have monitoring equipment. Do we do that?
We do not do that. That'd be something we have to address. That was part of my note for this policy. Should the board want to approve it as such, we would have to go back and make sure we have signs posted that this is active recording. There are some external doors where is a sign like this is, this, it says like there's,
This is monitored.
yeah, you're monitored.
Okay.
It's usually a blue sign or a different,
Right.
it's not like an unnoticeable sign in my opinion, but you can see the sign.
Right.
And usually on external facing doors.
I don't know if we want to remove that, or if we need to have that, or if we want to have that.
Remind me.
What is in the policy?
Remind me where that one is.
Well, it's in my notes right here. But I don't know where it is. Let me look through.
Isn't the legible invisible sign shall be placed?
Yeah.
Yes.
I see it there.
Yeah.
Where?
Fourth, fifth.
Right here on page 2, around point 6 of the page, the paragraph starting legible, invisible. I think what I'd like to see is examples of what other school corporations have utilized, because I think this goes back to, I know the board and community for that matter. We talk often of curb appeal,
Mhm.
and at times signage could convey the wrong message or heighten levels of awareness that
Right.
need not be. And so I'm curious to see what other school corporations have done. But at the same time, we do want our patrons and stakeholders visiting our schools to know that we're taking every
Right.
measurable precaution to keep everyone safe and secure.
Ron, are there legal implications for that? Like if we don't have it posted that we have cameras and we are videoing people, or the other way? I'm
Well,
just trying to think through.
The last paragraph kind of hits Indiana's a single interstate. You can record a conversation, but only one of the two parties to the conversation needs to be aware that it's being recorded for
Okay.
it to be lawful. What you can do with that evidence then opens up an open doors box of whether it's admissible or not. No, as far as signage goes,
This
the
does-
biggest issue with signage, I would tell you, will come from law enforcement and emergency responders. They do want door numberings,
Oh.
and they need to really, for a facility our size, with the state involved with all the kids, they need to have first responders, a fire, and need to have a diagrammatic outline of where our door numbers are, what our door numbers are.
In addition, there are also, especially on the fire side of things, and oftentimes as educators, we walk right past such signage. But there is unique signage around our schoolhouses that direct first responders if they have to respond to help you understand where some of the gas lines, water lines, piping, and some of those type things are as well.
From my just thinking about it, I think the signage would be good. I think it lets people know
Oh, without a doubt.
that we're monitoring and that safety is, but I do understand how it could kind of scare people a little bit too. But to me, it seems like we should have, if we're monitoring, that we should let them know we're watching.
Oh, I think that's what I'm curious to see what other corporations have done to again strongly convey that message, but also keep it from alarming.
Yes.
It's got to be a
yes.
What I can do is when we bring this policy back to the next policy meeting, I can bring some signage, like examples from schools, not just in Southeast Indiana. I can get some up at the Indiana. I can pull from some signage and see what is out there. Would that be okay?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Yes. Are we recording at every school? Do we have
We used to say recording.
a video recording?
But yeah, every school has cameras.
Yeah, we have some.
Now, how long a video recording is maintained? Usually between 7 and 30 days. For example, if I'm investigating something, I need a video recording. I can have our team pull a section of a video and just copy essentially into like a private file it's password encrypted and it's 2-factor. So it's behind a couple layers of protection, but I can, if need be, record or save a video, like especially bus footage.
Right.
There's an incident on the bus that's disciplinary in nature. I need a copy of that footage. I can pull that section of video, not the whole tape or not every day, but just the section I need, and I can save it outside that 30-day window. But
okay, got it.
But generally, those videos last between 7 and 30 days. It just
They
depends
get
on-
recorded over,
Yep.
whatever the digital equivalent of that is now.
Yeah.
That's very important. We've had issues in the past with legal actions where we should have preserved and didn't. And boy, that's always going to be viewed in hindsight of 2020. So you're always going to look bad if you didn't.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you get people alert to every issue that certainly altercations, any injuries, the cafeterias, the infamous ones.
Cafeterias, playgrounds.
As a school administrator, school principal,
buses.
one of the simple rules of thumb is that if you believe it may be called into question down the road, record it or save it. Save it and just store it away.
We went to 180-day retention. Now that's expensive.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But we have a jail, we have 2 or 3 courthouse buildings, health buildings. So you have 3 or 4 buildings.
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger expense that you'd be looking at for.
There's a lot of data.
And do we monitor every school entrance or just the front entrances? Every entrance.
Every exterior door.
Every exterior door and the cafeteria.
We're pretty well canvassed with the surveillance
Okay,
footage. But is there a camera on every door? What I would say is that exteriors, from the exterior speaking standpoint, like I said, we're pretty well canvassed.
Okay.
And have surveillance.
An example of that would maybe be like the Hibbert building out on the backside of the building on J Street. Door 4 and 5 exist on those streets. There are 2 doors, but there's 1 camera. Where you can see all the parking spaces.
Yeah.
Right. You can't see necessarily door 4, but you can see where every parking space is. It's a multi-view camera, so there is that view. But to say it's on every single door, I don't think that's accurate. I think every facade of a building that's exterior facing, you would see those are pretty well covered.
Very similar to what people do with their own home surveillance cameras.
Which is going to ring doorbells.
Well, yeah, you have a ring doorbell, but then you may also have a camera that's stationed to get your garage, your driveway, and this facade of your home.
Yeah, a big one was in parking lots where our staff and families may park.
Right.
If we typically would have a legal situation if like a car got broken into, so making sure the parking lots are all in view is really important. We have got the request. There was an accident at a cross section, and our camera just caught the hair of the cross section, so the police requested the camera footage to see like the valley of the accident. Now there were no students involved, and so it was a pretty easy request. There was no FERPA exemption needed. There was no students in it, right? That was easy. But if there were students in it, it becomes a little more complicated. Not impossible.
It's considerably more complicated.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments on this policy? Okay, we'll move on to policy 7455, accounting system for capital assets.
I brought all the really interesting policies tonight.
You did. Thank you for that.
7455, when I talk with Ms. Scout and Dr. Finance, they already do this policy. This is what they
Gatsby, I think, isn't it, basically?
What?
I think this is the Gatsby rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is currently in practice now.
Okay.
And I would feedback. She had no suggestions or changes. I would follow this policy currently, and the fixed asset report is being done each summer. This looks more closely aligned with the audit requirements of what the Scout let us know.
And are those money amounts to 10,000? Is that what we currently have?
Yes, that is my understanding. Yes. I know, very interesting. Very the accounting system for assets.
Yeah, actually, our current policy has a 5,000. Oh, that's capital assets. Depreciation doesn't have an amount currently.
Yeah, when I asked,
Oh, yes, I see. I think it's 5,000 is what we currently have.
yeah, I think when I asked Karen,
Yeah,
she said
recommends.
10.
Okay. This is the only policy. I didn't have any questions written down for it, so
There you go.
because it's just so complicated.
It is very technical.
Yes.
Well, we have a materiality threshold that we're supposed to report losses to the state board of accounts. And I think that's only 500. Because otherwise, I think we got it up to 500.
Any questions or comments on this policy?
But you know, what I might recommend to the board, because some of these policies are so technical,
Yes,
I may send them out ahead of time of the business meeting.
that's great.
So if there are questions, because if we find ourselves in a business meeting, this may really lengthen the duration of the meeting.
Sure.
So if I can get some of those questions taken care of before we get there, we can always just publicly discuss it. We can always do that. But if the board has questions about some technical language, it may behoove me or us.
Well,
to
I think
back
that would
my-
be
prior
great.
to Mr. Hensley's arrival in the role that he's currently
Yeah.
serving in, that had been standard practice where much of what's found on the agenda prior to the board meeting that we receive questions. And so we'll definitely encourage members to vote those questions.
I mean, it's real technical.
Mhm.
And if I can gather information or have any opinions or signage pictures, that kind of thing, ready to go, that way I don't have to drag it to 2 more meetings. It would really be efficient use of your guys' time.
Okay, so we'll move this one on to the first reading at the next meeting. Next, we'll look at policy 8452, which is automated external defibrillators, which we just updated last year.
There's
Right,
Two
and now
statutes were
there's
passed in 25 that
more. Okay, yeah,
addressed that, and one of them basically required it to be venue-specific availability
Yeah.
within a period of 2 or 3 minutes. I can't remember what it was, a few minutes. So
and that also was a question I had, is it part of this new policy says that venue-specific
Yes.
emergency action plan will be distributed and posted throughout the school
Yep.
and rehearsed frequently. Kind of vague what this frequently means, but I guess we don't currently do that because we don't have yet. This is new.
This is brand new.
The venue-specific emergency is new, not the AED is not new, but
Right.
okay.
And I think there's some detailed training requirements in the new statute too.
Yeah.
I've got to stop. I got to get going. Appreciate you. I'll be in touch with you.
And so this is a requirement because of Indiana code that changed the
Yes.
AED. Okay.
And it is, and it's really important. If we do find ourselves, for example, on a softball field, we have a venue. we would have to have a plan if something happens. We hear all the time. We've been really fortunate that we don't have any kind of medical crisis on a softball field or at a place that's not a school.
Right.
Inside of a building, we have ADs posted. I know where they are. There's one like right over there, like through those two walls. I know where it is. But at a facility or an event that is outside or maybe not within a building, we should have a plan. And this calls into action that request.
Well, ours is behind our refrigerator in a stack of soft drink cases. So do as we say, not as we do.
There you go. There you go.
So one of
This also says that the the plan will be distributed to the board.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming eventually when this gets approved and that gets created, then we will get.
to our compliance calendar.
Okay. Okay, great.
And we do it annually, obviously. It probably, I think, would make a lot of sense. This is something we can think about. Is prior to the start of the school year, maybe July, we would approve a plan because we would need it before the school year.
Yes.
So maybe June, July, we could have a plan and we could add that. Cindy, thank you.
Right.
Bye, Ron. Bye. That
So
was
need to come back. June,
the
July, because
policy
it
one.
states-
The policy one is the plan.
Oh, because it states in here 25-26 school year.
But we,
in
oh,
this
I see what you're
policy.
saying. We need to strike that.
Mhm.
We just want to take out
Oh, yes.
the year specific. We just want to say the school year.
Okay.
Yeah, no one does that. The one thing I want to make sure the public is understanding and that the district also understands, this is important for me, is that in this policy on page 2, it's under F. It says there is a requirement that appropriate school staff and volunteers are trained in first aids, CPR, and AED use in a manner that follows evidence-based guidelines, right? This for me is a really good call to action for our ECAs, our athletics. Make sure if you have lay coaches, if they're not a school staff, if they're a lay coach, for example, they would need training to know how to do the CPR training, AED training, because they find themselves in the position of possibly needing to use it. I think about some of our football lay coaches or softball. Like I think about those individuals. I think about band. Like summer band gets hot. I know that. So if we found ourselves needing CPR, AED, make sure those people are band directors, volunteers that are appropriate would all have AED training. So that's something I got to think through.
Now, this is also vague in that I think of volunteers. I'm a teacher and I have volunteers come into my classroom. Because this doesn't say athletics in that.
It doesn't.
So does that mean I have a parent volunteer coming in? How does that translate, I guess?
I think the word appropriate is that
Okay.
what like is a volunteer an appropriate person to CPR train or AED train?
Mhm.
I would say no if they're volunteering on a limited basis.
Okay.
If you are actively working in an area where there's physical exertion, there are external environmental factors that I would think that maybe athletics CCAs we should really think about the coaches or lay coaches. And if there's a parent volunteers coming every single time and they're actively serving in that capacity, maybe them also.
And do we have current AEDs off-site at like McBride? Or,
I don't think we do.
so that needs to
At McBride, I don't believe there's an AED on site. I double checked. I didn't see one last time I was there.
I believe it may be one of the
in one of the
handheld
buildings.
traveling.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Oh, so the coaches of softball and baseball then?
I believe so. I believe
I'll
that's
double check.
Yeah, if we can check on that, we want to make sure
Because
any
that was something
site.
that,
And
we
what about
discussed.
soccer? Well, they're here,
At
right?
least,
Or do they practice at the other field?
I can't speak.
We can just
Specific
check to
spot.
make
Yeah.
sure that if the team doesn't
Yeah.
practice here, that their coaches know that they have to.
It's not too long back we had had that conversation regarding band.
Yes.
Because it gets so hot.
Yes.
Making sure that again they wouldn't have to run all the way back to the Turning Center. Of course, with the statute changing, it made it so that if there was a volleyball practice indoors, football practice outdoors, and
That's right.
band, there was 3 AEDs.
Yeah. And so we'll double check. We have enough portable AEDs, for example. We'll make sure we have enough.
Yeah.
Make sure our ADs and the athletics team
Mhm.
have enough.
And Mrs. Hazelbeck was working diligently.
Yep.
To see to it some time ago. So
Yeah, I'll talk with Bridget too.
Okay, great.
working with Meridian and other.
So if we make these changes and then the board approves, then the next step would be for you to create that plan you're saying June or July to have that be
Well, we would present
the
a venue
venue
specific plan.
specific emergency action plan would be created next.
Yep.
If this, once this gets approved.
Yes.
Okay.
And we already have emergency procedures and protocols and plan that's confidential in nature within every building. We could just add a small section to that plan. It has never gone to the board in my knowledge.
Okay.
Like those, they're confidential, but that we could share them with the board through executive content if we needed to. That way you could see that there is a plan created that is venue specific. The ones that we have to talk about would be like soccer fields, McBride potentially, the areas that aren't a school building.
Okay.
And that I think is totally workable.
Golf.
Yeah, golf. Yeah.
And the only reason I said, just because this policy says the plan also shall be distributed to the board and all corporation employees. So whatever that means.
We could post a,
Yeah,
like
should
a,
be.
we
If
could
we
have,
include that, it should be done.
I agree. We could do it posting like to the school via website. We could just post to our website, or we could give the board physical copies. We could do it that way. I think there's a couple.
Yeah.
There's a couple ways around
We
it.
need physical copies more paper, but maybe a place just to look at it, know that it's,
But we have a
And the
plan.
corporation employees obviously need to be, because they are the ones acting on the emergency plan if needed.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. So it sounds like this will go to first reading. And Susan, you're going to check with McBride and soccer and all those and verify the AED status.
Yep.
Okay.
I can do that.
Any other questions or comments on 8452? Next is policy 8462, child abuse and neglect.
This one also goes to our school counselors in the same way that the other policy did. As far as they were concerned, there was no edits needed to be made outside the ones we selected here.
And then it mentions in this training for employees, does that happen on PD's Tuesdays or how does the training for?
There is an annual training that's required for child abuse and neglect as well as human trafficking. Those are two separate trainings and they have to be done annually.
And do they happen on Tuesdays or how do?
They happen at the very beginning of the year.
The beginning of the year.
Yep, when those videos go out.
It's a video. It's
Yes,
part of the
yeah.
video with
Yep.
the bloodborne
Bloodborne,
pathogen.
yeah.
Okay.
You have
So
30 days from the time school starts to get it done typically.
Got it.
Along with test security.
Or 30 days from the date of hire. So if we bring someone in late, usually 30 days from the date of hire.
I like that they're adding volunteers to this where it wasn't added before. That now, I mean, if you volunteer, and so we want to make sure that we educate our volunteers as well. Volunteer coaches and any volunteer should be held responsible for reporting something. So I don't know how we educate. I guess we educate our teachers who oversee the volunteers so that volunteers know as well if they see something, they need to say something. And by law, they have to. It's my understanding, right? I mean, I know it is for educators, but this it now adds the volunteers.
I mean, yes. How we train individuals, I think that's a conversation. This is a mandate with no mechanism, right? This is a legislatively decided thing. So for our volunteer coaches and any coach employed by the corporation or youth coach employee is what it says. Our coaches already have to go through background checks, and there is a level of precaution there. I think we'll take the next step, and we can just assign them the Safe Schools videos, and they can all do it.
Yeah, that'd probably be good. Yeah.
Now, how we decide, like any
I
volunteer,
know.
that one is something we can think about because I also had a question about this, and so what I will do is I can reach out again to some other school districts and how they're approaching this.
I don't know if there's like a pamphlet you say, okay, thanks for volunteering, make sure you look through this. I mean, or who oversees that, but
Yeah.
something needs to be, and it's for the betterment and for the protection of our students so that everyone's keeping eyes on everything to make sure our students are safe.
And I think the way that paragraph reads on the first page is that if there's a volunteer that sees something that they think is abuse or neglect, they need to report that immediately to the building administrator. That goes to them. And that building administrator will be the one that makes a report with the volunteer.
That's typically how
I know it says
Flipping
after the
out.
report, after making the report, the staff member shall notify the appropriate building level.
Oh, is that in the first?
That's
The
it says after making the report, the staff member shall notify the appropriate principal or building level administrator
oh, I see.
on the circumstance that led up to that.
Uh-huh.
In my experience, how this works is if it's a volunteer, they're typically making the call with the principal
Yeah.
or with the teacher. Like there's a staff member that is assisting them in that process.
And typically speaking, even as building level leaders, if a educator comes to concern, typically we would also sit in
Yes.
with the certified educator to.
Yeah.
I've had to make one of these calls, and my principal was with me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And our principals are very well educated on how to do this. They do it when they have to do it. They know how to do it.
Some type of a flyer or even some type of little small card to pass out to volunteers as they
Right.
chaperoning a
Just
field trip or something of that nature.
Something that makes them aware
Yes.
of what
Yeah.
they,
But
the
If they have reason
proper
to
chain of what
believe,
they need to do.
yeah, because if they do have reason to believe that abuse or neglect has occurred while they've been a volunteer in capacity of that, then they need to immediately let the teacher know or whoever supervising them know, and that teacher or administrator, whoever that is, can work to make a report.
Interesting enough, this is where school principal, and oftentimes we'd have volunteers that would report coming back from a field trip. Hey, saw this type of behavior. I want to put this on your radar. It oftentimes comes down to the leadership, administration, and also teacher sponsors selecting the right parents, guardians, or patrons to volunteer. And making sure you're getting quality volunteers that take such roles seriously.
Great. Any other questions or comments on that policy? Not that, we'll move on to first reading. I do appreciate, Stephen, for each of these you say, I talked to the counselors, or I talked to,
Yeah.
that's really important because, I mean, Kathy and I are sitting here looking for these, but we don't live the policies. And
Right.
we aren't there, so it's important to hear from the people. So I'm glad that you're doing that.
It's definitely been an information flow. Like whenever I read a policy, we figure out, okay, where does the policy need to go? We get information, we collect information, we gather whoever lives the outcome of the experience, and then we make tweaks as needed. And we bring forward.
Thank you for that. Next is policy 8500. And I know that this came before the policy meeting, or yes, the policy work session before. And that Karen, my note said Karen was going to look through and give recommendations. And I think Chartwell's and operations team were going to review as well.
So 8500, I'm asking to give me a little more time. It's such a long policy. And
And we've never had this policy.
we've never had before.
Right.
So I'm working with Chartwells to get feedback from them. They've been extremely busy the last month. So I am asking this I will bring it back to the next one, and I have my fingers crossed to have it all the T's crossed and I's dotted.
And
It
the
is-
recommendations.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And it's just a lot
It's
to read through.
complicated. It is.
Yes.
It's really just a lot.
I'm like, scroll.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I think that'd be great. I think we need some feedback. I need to go through and try to choose options.
I know. 100% agree.
Okay, so that will make note to come to the next policy meeting. And our final policy this evening, policy 8405, environmental health and safety issues.
Yeah, I want to bring this one back because I think the notes I had suggested that we should just turn this whole policy into an AG. When I went back, in my brain I was like, okay, does Neola recommend an AG for this? And they don't. They recommend a policy because if we don't have a policy, we could not have an AG, or we shouldn't,
Okay.
right? Because there wouldn't be an 8405.
Hmm.
So if we convert it all into an AG, I don't know where to house that under.
Okay. So the only change that's suggested on this is to change the legal citation at the end at this point. So does this need board approval for that? And
There's only one option that I found on page 2.
oh, I must have missed
And
that.
that was about animals in classrooms. I think we talked about this one a little bit.
I did remember that. Oh, I see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
About the animals in classrooms being like reviewed
Yes.
every semester by the building level administrator.
Mhm,
So it would just be reviewed semesterly.
mhm.
As long as that's still okay, I'm okay to have that.
Is that what we currently have?
I don't think that line exists.
Okay.
Let me go back and double
I think
check.
that's something we talked about.
I was going to say, yeah,
Nexus?
that was the nexus of what we discussed before. Yeah.
Oh, we were gonna add something about the principal allowing for longer than a semester if need, or,
It was
right?
up to the principal whether they went to the next semester.
There's-
Okay.
Yeah, they
The way that
continued, if it continued.
the way the current policy says, live animals shall be allowed in the classroom for educational purposes with the prior approval of the principal. That's what the current policy says.
But no live animal will be allowed in the classroom longer than a semester. Then do we say without approval or?
We could say without the approval of the building
Because
level principal.
usually if you have a classroom fish or guinea pig or
fish.
something, yeah, you want to have it the whole year.
But I think that, as Mrs. Heller mentioned
Mhm.
during the last conversation, we're leaving that responsibility up to the
To the
building
principal.
to
Yeah.
connect and also make sure that if it is a say a therapy dog that animal has all of its necessary
Yep.
certifications and shots and all those type of things. One semester to the next.
So you'll add that semester and then some sort of word.
Yep, unless
Okay.
approved by the building level principal.
Yes.
Something like that. I'll cut a little sentence.
Or
a little
per semester should be reevaluated or whatever. So it's not just forever.
Yep.
That,
It's-
that the principal thinks about it.
Yep.
Okay.
I can put it out.
Semester and longer if approved. Okay. So this would go to first reading at the next board meeting.
I'm sorry, the board's gonna be like, Steven, what policies are these?
No, I'm happy that, I mean, we've had so many. We've had hundreds we've looked through this last year. Hundreds.
Intense.
And so it's nice to get, so this is, we're at the end of these, but you're gonna be receiving more updates in April. Is that my understanding? And we already have a
anticipate-
couple that we're gonna be coming back.
Yep.
Okay,
We haven't received it yet.
okay,
We typically receive it around April.
okay.
It may come in May, and that will be totally fine. When we do that, I'll bring them to you guys. But we have not received anything. So as of right now, this is the end of the road for us. Like this is all the policies for the. Well, I mean, we have a few more.
Okay.
Right?
Well, we have a few that we're gonna come back,
Yep.
but those could possibly, so should we wait or should we tentatively schedule a next date for May? Would that give, or do you think we should, what do you think, Stephen, we need?
I would.
You think we need one at the end of April?
I wouldn't do it in April.
Okay.
I don't think April's going to be a really busy month anyway. I would
Okay.
move it to just May
Okay,
if you guys are okay with that.
because May's very slow.
I was
Okay.
just saying,
I'm just kidding.
May slow, but I won't.
I
if I
think,
get
I
the
think May, yeah,
if I get the update mid-April, I won't have enough time to
Yes.
gather all the feedback or get you an agenda.
yes,
As usually there's like 15, 25, 30 policies.
yes.
I think May would be the go month, like early May.
Okay, and the few that we were gonna bring back, they will be fine to wait too.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if we could go ahead and figure out a May date, that seems to work well. And that meeting will be at a 10 a.m. time as we alter. And so May 12th, how does that look for anyone at 10 a.m.?
That night is the RCS orchestra concert for Test Dance and Hibbert. That's the spring concert that night. So
Okay.
that's totally fine. That's not till
Do you
6.
want us to, do we need to look for a different one for you?
Mornings are bad for me.
Okay,
And then I'm
okay,
getting ready after that Friday and leaving for vacation. So
okay. So are you okay if we go ahead and?
yeah, you guys. can
Okay,
get it.
okay.
we'll get you caught up.
Okay.
And it's recorded. so
We can
you know
always
it's-
Zoom if you're on vacation or something. You would want
That-
to.
I was just going to say, yeah, if you're going to log in, you can always join us.
So May 12th at 10 a.m. will be our next policy meeting. Great. So this
Okay.
work session is adjourned. Okay, it's right here. 10 minutes early.
Look at us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, so it shows, yeah.